Eileen wakes up from a nightmare and finds herself in a secret room with her hands tied and her body chained. When she screams for help, a voice from the ceiling tells her to complete the task. The light in the room turns dark red, and the voice instructs her to finish a simple task within a limited time. She has to move an object on the table in front of her. The voice gives her a reason to obey. If she fails, her young daughter, Eve, will die. This hits Eileen's weak spot, and she cries out her daughter's name. The monitor on the opposite side of the room suddenly changes, and a special countdown begins. Eileen calms down for a moment and decides to finish the task first, then plan her next step. She tries to bite off the zip ties around her wrists, but they are too thick and tough. When she lowers her head in despair, she sees her shoes and gets an idea. She looks at the timer and sees the red cubes disappearing faster and faster. Holding one shoe, she throws the other, but the shoelace isn't long enough. She realizes time is running out, so she decides to risk it and throws the shoe directly at the object. At the last moment, she looks up, about to speak, but her body suddenly collapses from an electric shock. Then the woman enters dreamland and sees her beloved daughter playing on the beach. She happily talks to her and slowly lies down on the soft sand. But good dreams are always short. When she wakes up, her daughter is gone. She notices the machine is silent and begins observing the surroundings. She can't touch the lights on the wall. They give off a faint electric shock. The metal seat in front of her is firmly fixed. She stands on the chair and touches the ceiling, searching for a way out. She scoops up a spoonful of food and puts it in her mouth. After a while, she's surprised by how delicious it is and quickly eats a second spoonful, beginning to gobble it down. The food is soon gone. She looks at the plate below her. Its smooth surface is like a mirror. The person in the mirror has changed. She can't believe how haggard she looks. Her hand has a scar. She touches her hair and realizes she might have been locked here for a long time. Thinking of this, she quickly throws down the plate and backs away. The surrounding space is silent and eerie. She curls up on the chair, unsure of what to do. While touching her head, she finds a large wound on the back of her head. In panic, she calls out to the machine repeatedly but gets no response. She can only cry in pain. At that moment, the image of her daughter suddenly flashes in her mind. A moment later, the woman wakes up again. She hears the machine speak and begins to resist, refusing to continue the tasks unless she can talk to her daughter in person. The woman and her daughter have a brief conversation. When she hears that her daughter is scared and wants to go home, she clenches her fists. After the conversation, she decides to continue the tasks. She walks forward, but finds the difficulty has increased. The light changes and the countdown begins. A glass wall blocks her way. She's only one step away from the pen, but she's helpless. She slaps the glass, but it's indestructible. She can't find a gap. Turning around, she tries to lift the chair to smash the glass, but the chair is fixed and can't be moved. She watches the time run out and looks around, but can't find a breakthrough. Desperate, she holds her head in despair. She tries to use her body to hit the glass, but the soft and hard glass bounces her back to the ground. She's out of ideas and watches the timer reach 0. The machine ignores her. With the timer almost out, she shouts in despair and watches the pencil move unexpectedly. She completes the task with only 2 blocks left. The light turns on, and she's shocked by another electric current. Then the woman enters dreamland again and sees her daughter playing on the beach. The only difference is she has a scar on her forehead. At this point, she feels a hand on her shoulder. She wakes up quickly and sees that she's tied to the chair again. There's a strange man in front of her. He doesn't speak and rushes toward her. She looks at his wedding ring, then at her left hand, and remembers that the man in front of her is her husband. She quickly explains to him what she's experienced in the secret room. Her daughter had been kidnapped and could be in danger at any moment. Eileen had to follow the machine's tasks, not knowing when it would end. Then the machine began to speak. The task was to break the pencil on the table. Roger, who had entered, was confused and asked several questions. The machine didn't explain anything and changed the light. When Roger picked up the pencil, an alarm sounded. The voice didn't allow him to complete it. Roger had to put the pencil down and run to untie his wife. Having experienced the previous test, Eileen realized something. She thought she could control things with her mind, but she couldn't explain how. Roger continued to talk endlessly, while Eileen focused on the pencil on the table. Then, she angrily spoke a sentence and Roger quickly shut up. The pencil floated in the air, broke into 2 pieces, and fell on the table. The task ended in an unbelievable way. Roger was surprised and asked his wife what she had done. Eileen's ears bled. She felt like she was missing some sound. Then the familiar electric shock came and she fainted. In her dream, Eileen saw her husband, still nagging as usual. She didn't understand why her daughter had suddenly disappeared, leaving her toy behind. Eileen woke up, screaming her daughter's name. Roger rushed to comfort her, but Eileen felt a huge pain in her head. When Roger checked her wound, the machine suddenly issued a task. Put the ball in the bucket. Roger picked up the ball and put it down again. The light changed with it. Having learned from the previous round, Eileen tried to use her mind to complete the task, but the ball didn't move at all. Roger suggested he could push the table over to her. Eileen closed her eyes and decided to try. After concentrating, she moved her finger, and the screw followed. The strange thing was she could feel the screw in her mind. She closed her eyes again, gathered her strength, and moved her finger, making the screw come out smoothly. Next, the second screw came out faster. As she began to control one screw, then 4 at the same time, Eileen became more proficient in controlling her mind. In no time, all the screws came out. The table was heavy, and Roger had to use all his strength to move it. Eileen moved her head, and the ball followed. She focused her mind on the ball. Having experienced the screw rotation, Eileen was now much more skilled at controlling her mind. She finally succeeded in putting the ball in the bucket. The task was completed, and the light became brighter. After this task, Eileen could easily control the shape of the sand, flip through the pages of the book, and make the water bottle spin quickly. She completed the tasks assigned by the machine with ease. The room task was upgraded. The machine put a disassembled gun on the table, along with a shovel and a bucket. The items could be associated with the beach. What was the meaning of the gun? The woman didn't have time to think. She just wanted to finish the task quickly. The two had a disagreement and started to argue. The woman felt like she had seen this quarrel before. The argument didn't weaken. It grew more intense. When Roger angrily slapped the table, the woman became completely enraged. The parts on the table moved faster and faster. She quickly assembled the gun, but the machine told her the task was not finished. Roger panicked and loaded a bullet into the gun. He praised his wife, but was very nervous. He hurriedly stopped her, saying the gun wasn't meant for killing each other. The female protagonist seemed to have lost control, her eyes wide like a lunatic. She pointed the gun at Roger and fired it instantly, but the bullet stopped in midair. Then, she used her mind to block the bullet. It fell to the ground, and the task was completed. The light came on. The woman, who had fainted from the electric shock, entered a strange dream. She had a headache and couldn't find Roger or her daughter. She squatted down and found her husband's ring buried in the sand. She dug a few more times and uncovered her daughter's shoes. She collapsed, and a pile of yellow sand poured down on her. The protagonist woke up from her dream and saw Roger locked in a sealed glass box. There was an entrance on top, and sand was constantly being poured into the box. The protagonist circled the box, unsure of what to do. Roger screamed desperately, hoping his wife could save him. Facing the crushing glass, the protagonist knelt down, helpless, watching as her husband was swallowed by the sand. The task failed. The room lit up with a different color for the first time. The protagonist begged the robot for another chance, promising to work harder. But the robot only repeated one sentence. Unable to bear the reality, the woman shouted and knocked the robot down. The door to the secret room opened, and a group of fully armed men in black walked in, pointing their guns at the protagonist. She moved her fingers slightly, and the men in black fell to the ground, unable to fight back. She opened the helmet of one of the men in black, and the face looked familiar. The protagonist finally walked out of the secret room. The door said, Test 0298. More men in black arrived and shot at the protagonist without saying a word. The protagonist remained unfazed. A transparent barrier isolated all the damage, and she used the familiar finger movement. After some practice, she began to control the movements in various ways. The men in black in front of her twisted like paper. She moved her finger, and their eyeballs followed the wind. She saw that the elevator ahead required recognition of the eyeballs. She quickly went to the next floor. The light in the room was different from before. The room said 0927. Task completed. The protagonist entered the elevator with doubts. After going up one floor, the elevator door opened, and purple light filled the room. She could hear a man's voice. She walked toward the man and realized it was her husband, Roger. The protagonist wasn't surprised. The man was clearly scared by something. He pointed to the door behind him and told the woman to look. Behind the door were several bags. She opened the second door, and it was full of her daughter's toys. The third door was full of sand. Soon, a large group of men in black arrived, but facing the protagonist, who had cheated, they were doomed. The protagonist seemed to understand something. She used her mind to open the helmets of the men in black. They looked at each other in shock. They were all her husband, Roger. It turned out that all the men in black were Roger's clones. The battle ended. The protagonist deliberately picked a cute one and controlled the flowing sand to slowly pierce his body. He fell heavily to the ground. She continued to move forward. The door opened, and a beam of light shone. The The familiar voice of the robot came again. But this time, the robot told her the test was over. She had completed all the tasks perfectly. Her daughter was not here. The robot awakened the protagonist's memory. One day, the mother and daughter had been happily chasing each other on the beach. Because of some trivial things, the couple argued loudly in front of their daughter. The daughter seemed used to it and covered her ears. In the quarrel, Roger slapped his wife. She couldn't fight back. She clenched her fist and roared. He accidentally activated something, and the protagonist finally remembered everything. The robot opened an exit, a door that would lead her out of the secret room completely. But the protagonist hesitated. If she walked out, she would never see her daughter again. She looked at her daughter in the dream and sang her favorite song with her. After a moment, she made a surprising decision. She returned to the secret room and chose to live in the consciousness with her daughter forever. She woke up again and saw the familiar pencil on the table. And the movie ends. So that's it. Hope you enjoy the story. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more videos.